Hi, I'm Rick from Frequency Central. Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to populate a Looking Glass control PCB with surface mounted resistors. So I've got some 10k surface mount in here. I've got some 100k surface mount in here. I'm going to start with the 10k. So this is how I do it. Your mileage may vary. First thing I'm going to do, oh by the way, this square is so that I know that the PCB is right in the center of the screen. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to tin each 10k resistor pad just on one side. Just going to go through and tin all 25. There are 25 10k on here, and then there are 25 100k. I'm going to do the 10k first, and then I'll sweep back and do the 100k later. Okay, so that is 25 pads all tinned. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some 10k resistors out. So it's a job for the tweezers here, so I count them out 5 at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I always put them at the top of the PCB because my hand kind of leans here, so I find if I put them at the top I don't end up with them sticking to the side of my hand. So I'm picking a 10k up with its scissors, with tweezers, sorry. I'm just going to get that solder melting again, present the 10k to it, and then just kind of wiggle it into position while the solder's hot. On to the next one now. Okay, so that's 2 done. That's 3. 4. 5. Occasionally they stick up a little bit, so I'll just pop it down by pushing on it with the tweezers. Okay, ready for another 5 now. So the reason we're using surface mount on this printed circuit board, on the Looking Glass control PCB, is because it's just really not possible to get 50 through hole PCBs onto this PCB. Sorry, 50 through hole resistors onto this PCB. It wouldn't be possible. The PCB would have to be much bigger, and the size seemed about right, so reverted to surface mount in this case. I don't think surface mount is particularly scary to do by hand. So that's 10 done. Let's get the next 5 out. What I did when I designed this PCB is that I'm using much bigger pads than are required, so it just gives you a fighting chance. It means there's more solder floating about on the PCB, more for the little surface mount resistors to grab hold of. Okay, oh, that one's moved a little bit. Pop it down. It actually doesn't take long, really. That's 15 done already. Perhaps a little bit more laborious than through hole, but then again there's no legs to snip, so it's a bit of a trade-off. Excuse me, just lost my tweezers on the floor. Okay. These are tiny little fellas. I wear reading glasses when I'm soldering them because they're just so small. It's It's easy to lose these surface mount resistors. If you breathe out too heavily or sneeze, you could lose 50 or 100. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's quite cathartic when you get into the rhythm of it. It's a relaxing thing to do. Don't know what you do to relax, but I solder surface mount resistors. Okay, so some of them are a little bit skew if they're not quite central. It doesn't really matter. If you're a perfectionist, you might like to move them, like I've just done that with that one, onto the centre. But that is 25 10k surface mount resistors held onto the PCB with just one leg. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to solder the second leg into place. So I'll go down and I'll just solder the opposite pad. If you're finding that your surface mount resistors are moving about when you do this stage, it means they're not securely held on the first pad. So it might be worth looking at that again. Okay, so they're held on by two pads now. Next thing I do is I just give a little dab to the first pad again, just to ensure that the solder is moving about and grabbing hold of the resistor. I often think when I'm using solder that it's kind of magnetic. It wants to grab hold of the components, and you notice that in particular with surface mount. When you melt the solder, it kind of attracts the resistors to it. Okay, so that's the 10k's done. So now I'm going to go through and I'm just going to tin each 100k pad, just one pad for each resistor. Then I'll go through and secure it with the second pad on a subsequent pass. What I always do as well is I put my 10k away so I can be sure that I don't accidentally solder another set of 10k. There's a 10k popped out of the way. Here's my 100k in here. Let's get 5 out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In fact, I might go for 10 this time. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So yeah, on this design, unless the module was going to be much bigger, it really was a necessity to use surface mount, which kind of goes against the grain with me, because I like the PCBs to be, accessible regardless of your skill set, within reason. And surface mount is just a little bit less accessible, although there are entire PCB projects nowadays that are exclusively surface mount. So I like to think of these frequency central projects that have a little bit of surface mount as kind of like a soft introduction to surface mount. Okay, that's that one jumped up. So that's 10. Let's get another 10. Seems I'm on a roll. Occasionally when you're designing a PCB, you'll be at the layout stage and you'll think, well, no way is this going to work with surface mount. So it's then a decision, do I make the whole module bigger? Sorry, no way is this going to work with through hole. So do I make the module bigger or do I move to surface mount? See, this is a classic example of me talking and doing and probably not really concentrating on what I'm saying. Because I'm probably more concentrating on what I'm doing, but it has more import. More important I get this right. So if I fluff my lines, apologies for that. So 5 left. I mean, I'm zoomed in quite tight onto what I'm doing now. I hope you can see. I think certainly on phones, oh, I've almost lost that one, it popped away. Certainly on phones, YouTube does have a zoom function, so you can zoom right in if you really want to see what's going on these PCBs. Okay, last 2 now. Okay, that's all the 100K. So I'm just going to go back through and solder the second leg of each one. I wonder how long this has taken. I'll have a look at the have a look how long this video is in a moment. Doesn't feel like it's been that long really. Okay, on to the last 2 or 3. Okay, so just turn the PCB round and just really touch the first pad again, just to reflow that solder. Make sure it's got a nice connection. The odd one I might pop a bit more solder on if I don't like the way the solder's moving underneath the iron, like that one there. Okay, that's done. That's 50 surface mount resistors on the control PCB of a Looking Glass module. The timer says that's been running for just under 14 minutes. I think that's pretty quick. What's that? That's like 3 a minute, 4 a minute. It's pretty quick. See if you can do it that fast. So what do you think of surface mount? Do you find it intimidating? Do you think it's easy? Do you think it's great to learn the skill? Please comment below, and as always, like and subscribe. Bye.